Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I will soon, soon. Knew as a child back in the womb.
All right, guys, we're back. Chris and Milos' podcast. We're going to pick up where we left off, talking about the top 5 or 6 guys in Olympia. This is probably one of the most exciting Olympia lineups we've seen in a long time. Guys are coming in shape. We've got a huge competitive lineup. You know, as Milos has been on multiple other podcasts talking about the breakdown, we keep going back and forth on who we're going to choose. Milos, let's make the easiest call first. Who's going to be the top 2, do you think?
Ramy and Hadi. I really believe that Ramy would be unbeatable, you know, because if you put in perspective that Ramy is bigger than anyone, and he's shapely and conditioned monster that has a width that nobody else can match and has this freaky size. I think it's a big man show still. It's Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, you know, type of bodybuilding that you can't ignore the mass. So if you ask me, last year, top 3, there was size, Ramy, there was shape, symmetry, Brandon, and then there was conditioning, Hadi. So in which direction you go? If you go by just conditioning, of course, Hadi won, hands down. And then if you just want to award the shape, which I would love that to see, the shape should be predominant factor, you know, then Brandon will win. But a combination of everything, I have to say, Ramy, the way he looks now, and I heard from Chad and I heard from Dennis, it's way bigger, way better, more condition, improved. It's going to be impossible to take him. But I do think that Hadi Choopan, you see, people sleep on Hadi. I said even 2019 in my review, I saw him winning that show. It was just unthinkable that at that time qualified for 212 and in last minute debating, am I going to go for open or 212? And Hani Rainbow and him, they decided, okay, let's do open. And he placed 3rd. And I say, if that was Hadi that was already seen a few times and known, he would have probably won. It was just like first time newcomer, and nobody comes to Olympia first time and wins it. Nobody. I mean, not Lee Haney, not Dorian, not you name it, not Dexter or Jay or Phil or, you know, Ronnie, nobody, right? So that leaves the question, can anybody show up for the first time this year and win it? And I would like to be, you know, optimistic and believe that, hey, it's IFBB, it's only physique that is being judged, not the passport, not the race, not the nationality, you know, speaking languages or whatever, or being a good representative of the sport. It is a physique show. So I do believe that a couple of guys actually have a chance like for coming and winning even on the first try. But to answer your question, for me, Hadi Choopan has a quality that I don't think nobody can match. He's like Andreas Munzer back in the 80s and 90s of this era. I mean, as good as Ramy was last year in conditioning, as soon as you glance, you know, to the left or right, whatever Hadi was, it was big discrepancy in the polishment, in thin skin, vascularity, striations. You know, I don't know what do you think of that?
I had Ramy winning for sure. I mean, the size, as you said, and the shape together with condition, and not to mention he's working with Chad Nichols again, correct? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do believe he's going to seal the deal. So I really don't think that somebody's going to come in and knock him off unless somehow Ramy becomes totally off, which could be a possibility, but I just don't see that happening. But second, I had a real close call, and I think a little bit of a dark horse that's going to fall in there is Labrada or Hadi, because if Labrada comes in, nails it, I think there's a possibility he could sweep in there because of his shape so immaculate.
I love Hunter's shape, and I almost feel guilty because in most of my reviews I kind of overlook him, but I always slip in that he was never in condition, right? So, you know, when you say this publicly, then people are gonna, you know, scrutinize and judge and say, oh, you're such a, you know, asshole for saying. Hunter Labrada, for me, was never in the crazy conditioning that you can say, wow, look at the condition. He was winning every show that he ever entered. I think he only lost Olympia, right? Twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every other show he won, and he won on his shape, on a perfect proportion, symmetry. That carry him, but he really never nailed it. I see glimpses here and there, even before Tampa a couple of years ago, and then Chicago show, and even Olympia. When you look at those Instagram pictures, right? And then a lot of people say, this is filtered or this and that. It can't be filtered that much, because even if it's in a gym and you see under whatever light, you can still deeply go into skin and separation and striations and tie-ins. And I mean, for me, Hunter was many times there, but lost something on the way to the stage. I mean, he wakes up in the morning, and by the time he steps on the stage, he was not the same. I hope he nails it, because I love the whole Labrada family. I really love them, and I kind of feel guilty that maybe I didn't put him there as a contender, because you have to prove yourself, because it's not like one time, two times. It was like every time he stepped on the stage. So you've never been there yet. That's why. But I love your choice. I mean, when you put all three aspects, size, and size meaning width and thickness. Some people could have a width, but they're kind of shallow, right? They don't have the thickness. He has both. I mean, Jesus. And then shape, symmetry, proportion, balance, everything is perfect. The only thing that was missing on him was conditioning. So can he overtake Brandon and William and Hadi? I mean, it's very interesting. You see that he can do it.
It's funny. It's like when I was looking at the lineups, I made a piece of paper and I wrote everything down. I kind of cheated. I kind of made a little schematic of who I think would jostle around a very few spaces. And when I was looking at it, I'm looking at everybody's shape and then looking at what if they came in condition. And obviously at this name of the game, to compete against some of these guys are so big, shape's going to be such an important aspect. And if the condition's nailed with it, I feel like there could be some places that move around quite a bit. I mean, we know Nick's going to nail his condition. We almost just know that's going to happen, right? So, I mean, Nick could sneak into third. He could sneak in even to second. If somebody else is off, it's going to be like, I honestly think outside of Rami winning, I think 2, 3, 4, 5 could be one of those switcherinos that could be in almost any direction, with like a Labrada, Brandon, Nick. And then you don't even know how much Derek is going to show up against their lineup, right? He's short. He's super thick. He's got crazy shape, and who knows what that's going to look like. But typically, as we know, short guys tend to have trouble in that top lineup with somebody who's that much bigger and taller, right? I mean, that's kind of been history,
Yeah, lately, not in the history, because we have our Danny Padilla, and we had our Mohammed Maccabi and Lila Bradas and Chris Dickerson, right? Back in the day, it didn't matter that much, but yeah, I agree with you. Lately, that's been happening, right? So, but you said it, perfectly. For 212 guy, Derek is wide and thick, and God knows. I mean, when you just, I always say this: shut the light and look at the structure and the shape. He's just about perfect silhouette, and then turn the lights on and see the conditioning, thickness, and everything. He has it. Last year from the back, he didn't have it from the front. I was very vocal about talking about, I don't think that his front matches his back. From the back, strided glutes, roped up hamstrings, width of the back, like no skin fold. I mean, crazy conditioning from the back. And then when you turn around, it looks like two different people, right? He was not here happening. So assumption is maybe he just depleted too far, and then lost, that glycogen pushing skin tightness. But I really don't think so. I think there's still not enough density maturity in his chest and shoulders. And that's what I thought up until like about a couple of weeks ago, when I've seen on his Instagram some video when he did the most muscular shot, and you could see striated delts, and you could see striated shoulders, and say, hold on a second. So if I visualize on the stage, he has a perfect structure. He has pretty much the best structure right there. If he stands relaxed, front double biceps, I mean, you know what I mean? Shut the light, look at the silhouette, as perfect as it gets. Super small waist, super wide lats, now sweeping ties, right? And then you've seen from a Pittsburgh guest posing when he was standing next to the other big guys, he was actually bigger. You know, it is off season and all that stuff, but it's off season for Brandon. It was off season for Nick, and he was holding his own. Like, oh, so Derek, you see, if Derek goes against Hunter, now you have a very interesting thing. They're both shapely, you know. Hunter would beat him in the arm department, but I think for that to be taper, a small waist, and then more detail from the back, ooh, you know, Derek can move up all the way. I mean, initially I didn't see him in top 6. First time I said to Dennis James and Chris, but now I'm a believer. He can be major mix, even you know, standing right there with the top 3 and holding his own. You know, so Derek can be there.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, because you're right. Labrada and Derek do have, you could say, very similar structures in that lineup, because they both have that. They're both not tall. They both are pretty big up top. They have that smaller waist. So it's going to be wild. And Derek has been smart. He hasn't really been showing too much of his physique, right? He hasn't been posting. Derek hasn't been posting mandatory poses. He's been giving us little glimpses here and there, you know, making us all wonder. But it's gonna. I honestly, like, I hate to say it, man. Like, I think Brandon might slip back a little bit. I think that you know, I haven't seen too much of him, but like with everybody else coming up and I don't know about you, but a lot of the open divisions results that I've seen, they've been going with shape. Shape has been weighing more, it seems like, than it has in the past years, where you see some of the bigger guys, not that they're getting penalized, but shape is taking a little bit more value than just being overly muscular, right?
Yeah, I believe that. I love that, but it's still Olympia. So is this different criteria in Olympia and other pro shows? That's also something to think about. Yeah, because we like Andrew Jacks, we like Brett Wilkin just winning, and my guy Behrus Tabani winning previously. And, you know, there is something that you're saying. I would just, for that reason, you know, if it's shape or aesthetics, I would wish that we go for aesthetics, because Nick Walker, like you said, he is fans' favorite. He's going to be peeled out of his mind. I mean, really, I can imagine this. His skin was already transparent like 2 weeks ago when I saw him, like, you know, this onion cellophane skin that you can see, you know, when it moves, like, oh, is actually skin there or it's not? I mean, he's going to be freaky. You know that these arms going everywhere. I mean, when he lives here, it's crazy. His ab control is perfect, but still, you know, now if I go one-on-one against Hadi, I see Hadi beating him in many poses. One-on-one against Brandon, I see Brandon beating him in many poses. And as you said, a lot of people think Brandon might be slipping. The fact is, he won 2019, second place 2020 and 2021, and there was a few people believing maybe he could have, you know, take it. So in shape and aesthetics department, we already know Brandon is super hard, almost impossible, right? Balance is what was missing. I really hope, and I made those comments, you know, not really to piss him off, but maybe to make him hungrier to do something to expand those legs a little bit, because there is still not balance. And then if he comes in a crazy condition, which also I've never seen, I've seen him in very good condition a couple of times, but not, wow, you know, these are kind of things when it's Mr. Olympia and you're going for it, you wanna be wowed, you know, you want to be like, oh my God. And Nick Walker is going to bring that. So when there's a big difference in conditioning, right, you would assume the condition would win, but look what happened last year, Nick and Hunter. Nick was in way better condition, but Hunter beat him, you know? So, so that would always leave that thing. And then I must say, last night I was posing with my guy, Samson Duda. And a lot of people, even though a lot of people are saying, okay, yeah, Samson could be a dark horse, but they're not probably even, seeing as much of how dark horse he can be. I mean, he is phenomenal. And yeah, I seen him last night and I was impressed. Last night is the best version so far that I've ever seen. You know me, I was just gonna post it on Instagram and everywhere, and I was like about to click it, and then he says, "Better not." I said, "Okay," so we didn't.
That's funny. So like, yeah, I know that's the thing. The lineup on everybody is so good this year, and so far a lot of the pictures we've seen of everybody seems to be looking pretty spot on. So I'm just going to go ahead and call my top 6. I think Rami's going to win, and then I think it's going to be a massive mix-up between Labrada, Brandon, Derek, Nick, and Hadi. I think that's going to be kind of the little shuffling around, so to speak, based on how people are going to nail it and how they're going to hold it to the next day.
Yeah, okay. You see, Jay Cutler said it's going to be same top 6 from last year, and it made some sense. I mean, all these guys are top guys. Can Hunter really move up that far? I don't know. I still think there is, if you look just the shape, Brandon beats him, still for me. If you look conditioning, Brandon's going to also beat him. Hunter has to pull sabbatical to bypass him. Hadi Choopan is as complete as they get, as conditioned, and as experienced. His stage presence, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. There's some people that are working on the stage, and there are some people that are enjoying themselves on the stage and making 0 mistakes and attracting attention, and he is one of those guys. I mean, it's just amazing. You know that he has a impaired hearing, which I was always thinking, like, if you have impaired hearing, how do you, hear the music and hear the audience and all that stuff, right? But you can never see it. Level of confidence that he brings, and wanting that a one-on-one confrontation. You remember when he was calling Phil Heath and I stand right next here, pulling him, stand here and let's compare. I mean, who does that? I mean, you have to take, I love it. So yeah, I can bypass. I've seen William Boniak possibly beating him because William is going to be, I think, his all-time best, bigger, so you can imagine bigger William. Wheels are back intact. His legs are, again, powerful like they used to be. And apparently he is heavy as he's ever been and conditioned. And William Boniak's condition, that's not, it's like how many thousands of fibers did you just see? When he moves, it's like everywhere. But I see him narrow, and Hadi is going to exploit this in front, relaxed front, flat spread, front double bicep. Double biceps could be competitive, but back flat spread, back relax, then ab shut. I see that Hadi just has too many poses to beat him. And then Brandon, he is not posting anything, and I'm going to make this official. I absolutely love his physique, and I just want to see him super conditioned, a little bit bigger legs. He's instantly pushing Rami for that Olympia spot. Because it was close, Rami beat him on just sheer size, width, and then one of his legs were like 2 of Brandon's, which judges could not ignore, right? But there was many poses that Brandon beat Rami last year.
It's funny about Hadi, what you said about, not being able to hear the music and that being a limiting factor. But think about this, right? If you can't hear, you tend to have more enhanced senses because you have to focus extra on what things feel like and visualization in your mind, right? I mean, how many times, like when you practice posing, practicing without a mirror is most important because you have no reference point. You have to understand where you are in space and how you're moving. And that honestly gives him a little advantage because of his ability to kind of communicate with where he is and know where he is in his own body, that proprioception. But nonetheless, it's still amazing. And the confidence he brings to the stage, is great, and I like it because it's warranted. It's not like he's far off and he wants to be compared to the top guy. He's up there, and I'm glad he was able to make it out here when he did. But it's gonna be awesome. So what's your final top six?
Okay, so my final top six. I see Rami, Hadi. I think Brenna's going to come in shape, so he's going to still overtake the William Boniek. So it's going to be third Rami, third Brandon, fourth William, fifth Samson. And I'm saying fifth Samson because I've seen him just yesterday, and I know it's the first time coming, and he's going against these veterans. But I can see direct comparisons, Brandon and Samson, and Samson beating him in many poses. I mean, really, many poses. I tell you that. So people might say I'm biased. Nick, I said before, he's either second or out of top six. But I think what you said is just going to be such a ridiculous condition and so much ridiculous freak factor that they're going to have to keep him in top six. I mean, if he doesn't make a top six, I'm sure audience is going to go wild. And look, can he still play second? So I'm going to put Nick Walker six. Can he still play second? Yeah, because they're going to put him next to Rami, because that's going to be a show everybody wants to. If you want to pay, like I'm going to sponsor this comparison, right? A lot of people in the world would sponsor. Okay, let's just bring Big Rami and Nick one-on-one, right? Who wouldn't want to see that? The whole world is want to see it. And sometimes I'm thinking if it's about a business, it's about a show, and you want to excite the audience, maybe they should consider that, sponsored call-outs. You have like 5 sponsored call-outs, and then see what people's choice. People want to see it. Jay Cutler said that's what he wants to see. He wants to see Andrew Jack and Samson, and I forgot what else. So Nick Walker, yeah. You might be right. Many people, they see him, top 3 for sure. I might be wrong. I just don't see it happening.
Milos, what about remember the elimination round back in the day when Gustavo beat Ronnie Coleman in some of the poses? Like being able to see everybody kind of get compared back and forth. I mean, I know that got a lot of criticism, but I kind of liked it.
Let me put it this way. I mean, of course, everybody criticized. Why are you criticizing? I mean, that was because it happened that I coached Gustavo, and with Gustavo, we strategize. Okay, we're going to have one opportunity. What can you beat Dexter? Well, in most muscular, yeah. Side triceps, this guy, the back down biceps, that guy. I mean, we knew our strengths, and he moved up all the way to the 3rd place. I mean, he was top 6. Initially, he wasn't even top 10, right? And then move up. The wrong thing about challenge round was that if Ronnie and Jay went for the first pose, and Ronnie calls the wrong one, and Jay wins, now when Jay calls, he called the same pose. Of course,
yeah.
That was stupid. That didn't supposed to happen, and then that made it boring. But wouldn't you as a fan say, okay, let's see Lee Haney and Arnold, or if you can put them together on the stage, or whoever, choose the pose. So now Lee Haney is going to choose the pose against whoever, best of the best, right? So in this top 6, choose the pose. I mean, I think that was beautiful,
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see this, right? Say the challenge round, right? Where you have, say maybe the top 8. And the top 8 gets compared, everybody gets compared together at one point. And the 2 mandatory poses that everybody has to be compared with side by side is a front double bicep and rear double bicep. And then they get to choose what the 3rd pose is. So that way you can go back and forth. But if everybody is a front double bicep, rear double bicep, is as you know how important those poses are with balance, symmetry, muscularity, condition. you can really see everybody side by side and see that along the way. Kind of like a national show, right? Steve Weinberger comes out, everybody's all right, front relax, front double bicep, face the rear double bicep. Okay, thank you. File off, right? Getting that first look at that, who's got the best front and rear double bicep. I would love to see that. I want to see everybody compared.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I'm very vocal about this. What is bodybuilding? Oh, it's competition on the stage, comparisons of guys on the stage. Okay, so let's see it. Let's see more of it, right? I mean, you have to allocate a little bit more time for that. You know, shit. Who wants it? Who doesn't want to see it? I mean, you and I can right now take a top 3 guys with the last 3 guys, put them in a comparison, and we would be interested to see. Let's see how they, you know, with these guys. I would love to see it. Why not? I mean, they made it to the Olympia. Give him a chance, because you never know. Ooh, you mentioned Gustavo. I keep saying about this. Gustavo was not on the top 10 radar that year. He was at 2002 Olympia. He was actually placed 24th out of 25 guys. At that time, they actually didn't score 16 and everybody was there. He was 24th out of 25 guys. 2003, he competed. He didn't place nowhere. I competed against him, right? It's interesting because after I officially retired in Hungary, I announced, he came backstage and said, "Are you retiring?" "Yes, I want to work with you." He said, "Gustavo, for the love of God, 1998, I offered you, right?" "Oh, no, but we are competing, you know." So same like Nasser somebody, he thought, like, if we are competing against each other, I would not be honest. I would not give him a right information. But anyway, to make a long story short, so that's the guy that showed up in 2004, right? Top 3 at the Ironman, shocker. I mean, Lee Priest and Dexter were top 2, and he was, and then second at the GNC show, you know, Victor Martinez beat him, and then goes to Olympia and really was not on the radar for top 10 and made it. They gave him a chance. That's the only thing that he needed. In today's, or a couple of years ago, judging, like at Arnold Classic, there was first group, 1 call out, second group, 1 call out, third group, 1 call out, and then first group again and nothing. So guys from a second call out had 0 chance. And I had like Max Charles at that show that looked crazy. It looked freaky. You know, best conditioned guy in the whole show. You know, Max is okay, even with some weaknesses. He is super comparable. He could have beat many guys, but no chance to be compared. So fast forward to this Olympia, I think it's going to be tons of comparisons, which I can't wait to see. And I see first group and then second group being the top guys, and then they start mixing them. I can see that happen. I hope to God.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. So Milos, switching gears, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you, which I was super curious to, because, you know, you're an older school guy. You've had vast experience over decades in bodybuilding. You've trained athletes all throughout those decades. You yourself have made it to a top level. So I do understand a little bit of your philosophy with training. I bought your videos. I've read about your stuff. So I'm curious, in your words, so like when you go back to the 90s and your general training splits, reps, or however your training philosophy was, how has it changed from then when you stopped bodybuilding to now with training athletes? Like, have you found new or different things that you seem to have worked? Now, to give you something to go off on that, one of the things that I found out for myself was when I trained a muscular failure too much, I was driving myself into a recovery hole and I wasn't progressing. And when I backed off that muscular failure and these crazy forced reps and sets, and I just trained a technical failure and accumulated my volume over time, and then eventually increased frequency, I was recovering and getting stronger, and I was not getting injured anymore. But, you know, we tend to sometimes fall into that realm of got to train as hard as we can. And that sometimes can lead us down a bad path. Is there anything that kind of specifically stood out that kind of changed your mind in the last 2 decades that you're just like, man, I used to think that, but I don't feel that way anymore?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I mean, you got to consider I was from Yugoslavia back starting in 1981. September 1981 was my first workout. I'm a freak. I actually write everything down. So you can imagine. And at that time, information there was not available, magazines, books, nothing, right? So just seeing the guy, I seen him last year, and he came to the school, and what the hell are you doing? Because first time I see a guy that built some muscle. I was a teenager, 17 years old. So training. So then we went there, and how normal people think, oh, he does this much, I want to do more. And then he was training for 2 hours. Let's try to train for 3. Oh, let's try to train for 4. Let's try to do every muscle every day. Oh, it's kind of too much. Oh, let's do everything 3 times a week, right? Chest and shoulders. This is kind of, because you're really starting from nothing. So for me, it was volume, kill, more. And I got smaller. It's like, of course. Then I figure out, diet is a specific part, but diet is a different story. Now you're talking about the training. I'm very vocal that nowadays a lot of people are, BBing it in sense of overtraining. The people now talking about overtraining is comical for me, because back in my times, we all train 6 days a week, twice a day, pretty much, right? And we had a kind of approach like you did, all out, progressive overload, go as heavy, go to the failure, do the couple of force reps, do the maybe negatives and all that stuff, right? Because mentality is hardest worker in the room. Nobody's gonna, outlift me, outwork me, so all out. What does it mean, all out? Then you see you trash yourself and you can recover. Lee Haney was putting this in the best words: stimulate, don't annihilate, right? It's like fine line when you can go to the certain point. The huge thing for me was talking to Bill Pearl back in the day. And Bill Pearl, once we start talking about failing, he got me off guard. He said, Milos, why would you want to fail in anything? I mean, why would you want to fail in anything, right? Because you look at certain things just from one perspective. Oh, I need to push to that failure and shock the muscle, go where you've never been before. So now you're going to create that muscle damage, and you're going to create all the reasons for hypertrophy, right? But after he said that, right, I was like, oh man, do we really need to? I think this is first time I heard the terminology. You said a technical failure. I never heard that before. Which I would like to ask you, what do you mean exactly? I think we're thinking about the same thing. What do you think by that?
Yeah, technical failure meaning once you have the inability to complete a perfect repetition, the exercise is done.
Okay.
So it's like now you're gonna start compensating. You're gonna start moving in a way that your body could result in injury. So it's like technical failure is when you stop, and that's when you break, and before you do the next set or a back off set or a drop set or so forth.
Yes, but you see, okay, the whole theory, from 30, 40 years ago, you do the heavy 1 to 5 to failure. It's a strength 6 to 12. Fast twitch fiber, and then it will be so. That's in the theory, and then again, like most of us, follow the blind. Don't think outside the box. You just do that. But I was always told by my father, the science and everything, that your history, the information, propaganda on the TV, everything you hear, good, register, think about it, and think if you can outside the box consider other things. So for me it was, okay, let me see what happens if I do high reps. And there was a period of time when I did high reps, far more than 6 to 10, right? I was doing 12, 15, 20s, and I was improving greatly. And then I meet Serge Nubret, one of the best physiques of all time that I know of, right? And I see him doing the same thing, higher reps, never going to the failure. He can bench 4 plates. He does 225. He doesn't go over, right? And things like this. And then I met Thierry Pastello or Benaziza, seeing them also do like kind of giant sets, what I was doing. I'm not going to implement the giant sets in this conversation, but for me was after I recognized and realized all these things, oh, why do we train? To break the world record? No. To spend the calories? No. To do the physical work? No. We really work for one purpose only, stimulate the muscle. Okay. So now you stimulate, and if you're going to go with this two aspects, myofibril and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, these theories, right? You have to do something heavy, and then you have to do something to just volumize, blow up, pump, like Arnold would, be insisting, pump, pump, pump. I've seen both. So I immediately, before I even turned pro, start dividing my training. Each body part had to have a couple of heavy duty all out sets, but I honestly never went to the complete failure, what you're saying. I was always terrified. I had when you pick up the weight and then you see yourself, okay, tearing the muscle. I've seen my pec tear, and I've seen all these things. The only thing that I was not afraid, for whatever reason, is like for legs. I was super strong on legs. I can push the house off my back. So I would do, 10 plates on the hack squats, 10 plates each side. Super, super heavy, right? But I was in control, and I never thought of, okay, I can injure myself. And that's when my patella tendon exploded. All 4 quads rolled up and stuff like that, right? Where is that limit? So the stimulation, like you said, the technical failure, I'm going to probably use this as Chris's terminology. You want to push it smartly, and you feel that, okay, now I'm there, what I wanted to accomplish. But I'm sure that you're reading this new research and everything, when they put that more volume, would do the same kind of hypertrophy stimulus than if you do this all out with a less volume, right? So the higher reps and more volume would do pretty much the same. I was never into the science. We are bro scientists, but I would want to say that in bodybuilding, in weightlifting and training, bro science is way above real science, because we are working with the top level world-class bodybuilders, hypertrophied, already reaching plateau, going through the plateaus, right? And real science is getting volunteers from my neighborhood, from senior citizen homes, or teenagers, right? They're going to be paid, and they're going to do some plantar flexion and some leg extensions. You know what I mean? I'm sick and tired of hearing this, but science, ton of theory, might not be as heavy as gram of practice. Take it to the room, experience for yourself, and then talk about this is our scientific research. So I probably am talking too much, but what you were saying, my view on training is, I literally, when I go to the gym, I am stimulating. And I always tell my guys, doesn't matter which muscle, let's say chest muscle. I don't care, you can open your eyes or close your eyes, and I can put whatever load, you don't know if it's 100 pounds or 400 pounds, right? And you're going to do it in complete control, contracting the muscle we can change the tempo. You can go explosive, you can do super slow, you can change the tempo on the 4 different parts, eccentrically, lengthened, concentrically, and shortened, right? We can play with this, but muscle has to do the movement, not, just, I'm going to tell my body to bench press. I'm going to tell my body to squat. I'm going to tell my body, no, I'm going to tell my muscle to contract and lift that sucker off my chest, things like that. I don't know if you've seen my post, I actually committed myself, even before you called. I was trying to just repost everybody that tagged me on my last post, talking about nowadays, posted on Instagram, when you see, there is so many coaches, they're so particular about when you go to the gym, you don't even move, you don't even breathe, spinal extension and protraction, retraction, depression, and then you do this, right? To do correct biomechanically, right? Everything is so, and they never connect with the muscle. They connect with the bone, they connect with the, position, they're stabilized. They don't create the force, they don't have a power, they don't have any muscular work, pretty much. I've seen this in last 5 years more than ever, right? So as much as I appreciate when you know your biomechanics and you know how to, pull or push and engage the muscle, great. Don't overcomplicate. Keep it simple, right? It's still most natural way. I mean, with today's expansion in technology and all this gym equipment, having perfect machines. And nowadays, you go to the gym, how many people really train with the free weights? Think about it. So mostly they're on machines anyway. Machine is already designed to isolate that primary mover, right? It's almost, if you try to, you can do it wrong. Almost, right? And then they overcomplicate. So I put that post, don't overcomplicate. Try to challenge yourself a little bit. Try to fight that weight. Like back in the day, when, in the 70s, 80s, and I'm sure that you did it in your time.
Yeah, so Milos, a lot to touch on that, but to expand on that, what I think what you just said about people overcomplicating things, it's when people start to overcomplicate things or derive too many steps in a movement, you start to make the client or the individual start paying attention to things that they shouldn't be paying attention to, right? It's like there's only so much bandwidth your brain can focus on. There's so much effort that you got to pay attention to where I am. And then all of a sudden you're not focusing on exerting yourself to the max. You're not focusing on the muscle that you're actually targeting. You're focusing on everything else in your position. My take on that is it's really more an individual thing. So if somebody says to me, I have a lot of trouble feeling my lats, okay, let's take a look at your mechanics. And maybe we do need to apply a little bit of the changing mechanics to get your lats to improve and not so much movement within the scapula. But I 100% agree with you. And another thing too that people seem to overcomplicate is, I say this is what I say to my clients. They go, how slow should I move? Or what weight should I be using? Or what rep range? I feel that the rep range, the tempo, and the weight should be adjusted based on that individual's ability to connect with that muscle, right? Yeah. If you're going explosive and you're using heavy weight and you're in rep 8 and you're getting a really good connection in your upper fibers of your chest and you're feeling it there, and that's the muscle you're moving the weight with, great. But if you're not, you might need to lighten the weight a little bit. You might need to slow down a little bit until you can regain that connection to that area. And then you can start trying to progress. I feel like so many people try to jump the gun with weight, speed. They position themselves to maximize leverage points to lift more weight than they can normally handle with the muscle they're targeting. And that ended up leaving them in a hole or injured. But sometimes you got to take a step off the gas to get more traction before you can push again, and I, unfortunately, it took me forever to figure that out, because part of it, you got to leave your ego at the door and you really got to start thinking and training like a bodybuilder, not like a weightlifter. And then everything kind of follows suits. And then the other aspect of, like, when people say how much volume, how much frequency, that's really all dependent on that individual's response. Some people, Joe Blow, might be doing 18 sets for biceps and it's working. And the other guy might be doing 8 sets for biceps and it's working. It's really an individual response. And I feel a lot of people have trouble paying attention to how they're responding. And they keep looking at the newest glamorous thing on Instagram or social media, or a new guy what's doing in the gym and he's got crazy arms, so I should be doing what he's doing. Or maybe you should look closely what you've been doing and see what you can change within your own programming.
Yeah, see, you nail it on. It's not the weightlifting. It's especially when they go with the let me log in. Today I did this. Oh, now I have to do more. I have to do one extra rep. So you have a log. I mean, Dorian Yates was doing this and all the power training, right? But like logging in, what? Where are you going to go? You're going to go on a stage and you're going to bench press and, you did another rep. Oh, you win. It's so irrelevant. And as you said, then people forget about muscle. They get in a leverage and they use everything and anything to move that sucker, right? And they lose the form and just, I have to do that extra rep. It's irrelevant. So for me, I mean, to keep it, very short. And that's maybe message. Even I would tell it to you, maybe when you describe to other people, because we think alike. So for me, when I train Regan or anybody, I say, okay, before he even started the set, I want you to connect with that muscle. You were saying upper fibers, okay, upper fibers. So I want you to connect. Okay, there's a range of motion you're going to be doing, right? So as soon as you start, I want you to connect that fiber is in control of lowering, right? So I want you to burn. That's my term. Learn to burn. Try to burn as soon as you can, okay? And then try to burn like a hell out of it, okay? More intense, the better. So that's indication your body is telling you, stop. Yeah, I'm uncomfortable. Don't do it, right? Oh, this is when our reps start counting, right? As Arnold said before, you don't even count the reps before you start burning. Well, instead of doing 1,000,000 reps before you start burning, try to learn to burn as soon as you can. Anything you do. I mean, legs, hack squats, shoulders. Okay, go this first super slow. That's a completely subject for maybe separate podcast. Super slow concentrics that a lot of people are against it. I promise you, everybody goes slow eccentric, okay, and maybe they can connect and control it, but eccentrically we are stronger, and sometimes, you don't put enough load to really feel the muscle in first, second, third rep eccentrically, right? But try to go slow concentrically. Anything. I was. That's one of the things that I discussed with God bless his soul, Mountain Dog. The John Meadows. We think alike in many things, but he once told me, like, Milos, I'm not about these slow concentrics. Nervous system doesn't fire the high threshold motor units. And I said, really? Okay, come here. And he was in the gym with me. And I put him on a Smith machine, right? And let's do incline or shoulder press. What do you want? Okay, it doesn't matter. And I made him do those super slow concentrics, that basically you cannot use any muscle power and, to push it. You just squeeze it slowly, right? All the way through. And then you don't lock. I guarantee you, 3-4 reps, anybody does it, it's going to burn it's going to be complete failure. You're not going to be able, it's not from the load. It's just muscle completely fatigues. Do that for legs, hack squats, super slow hack squats. Do it for biceps. I had him do the super slow preacher curls. When I do the 5 seconds, it's quite easy, but go 8-8 or 10-10, and then squeeze like a maniac. So my theory in training, when we train complete newcomer or an experienced guy, like you would have some top pro, and he needs to improve the body part is, for years has been kind of challenging. Establish, mind muscle connection, everybody talked about it, but establish, but now seriously try to create that intense burn, and then in whatever range of motion, try to make it as worse as possible. Be your worst enemy. Because we are creatures of discomfort, makes us want to get out of it. Oh, I don't like it. Oh, this is discomfort. Now make it worse. It's almost like sadomasochists when they love pain. Pain is pleasure. In a sense. You heard me probably say to Regan, more pain, more. I see, and I see he wants to get out of it. No. Stay there. And if you're in the pain zone long enough, you already know, mind muscle connection is not just established, it's through the roof, right? That's the stimulation. And it's 100 times safer than any of those. I'm going to lug, I'm going to break my record, I'm going to push, because at whatever point, you're going to hurt yourself. There is not if, or it's just when. I mean, come on. Not all of us always recovered, like you said, maybe before you were kind of overtrained, but you're still pro, you're going for your pro shows, and I still have to train. And now that I'm in a gym, I don't want to be a sissy, right? I want to be a fucking man. I'm going to do it. Okay. And then, you know, for what point? No, stimulate, you know, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So in closing, Milos, that was perfect answer. And it's nice to see that some of the things I've learned, very, very similar to what you said, almost dead on. And I tell my clients too, everybody's like, hey, what do you think of this training split? What do you think of this? I'm like, everybody's worried about what to do, but they're not focused on how they're doing it, how you do it. Like you suggested with the slow eccentrics, taking on the incline press and isolating a muscle. When you isolate a muscle and you get that connection, you bring a burn, it's not very strong, right? Because as soon as you're incorporating all these muscles together and explosive power, that's a little different, but that's not bodybuilding. And that's a lot of people have trouble accomplishing. And especially my clients who have trouble body parts, bringing up bad body parts, they're always like, well, this is what I've always done. Well, like, well, clearly it's not working if this is what you've always done. If this is your weak body part and your weak body part has not progressed like your other stronger body parts, then you're going to have to change the way you're doing them. You have to, or else you're going to continue to get the same damn result. It's how you do something, not what you do. See these guys in the gym throwing around 150-pound dumbbells on incline press, and they have no chest, and they're doing quarter reps. They're doing explosive movements. And as you said, people are constantly positioning themselves to make the movement easier, make the movement harder.
Yeah.
And then establish that rep range, that feeling, that burn, and just go to the end, you know?
To bring the pain. You see, that's another thing. I mean, I'm throwing some terminology to you also because you threw at me. I like what you're saying, right? So I'm going to use it. Technical failure stuff. Same thing. Feeling the muscle burning. I tell them, bring the pain. So I want to actually, if I would train you and I see that you can do, let's say, whatever, 8 reps in slow, controlled to do your technical failure, right? You did it on the first. On the second set, I'm going to tell you, okay, Chris, now I want you to make yourself honestly fail on 6 reps. So
yes.
Now, okay?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
100%, 100%.
make these 6 reps harder. Because what's the fucking point of doing another rep? What's the fucking point? You know?
Milos, the other day I had a client who has a very difficult time hitting his chest and getting good connection. And I'm like, dude, you gotta focus on the connection. He's like, I just don't understand. I can't do it. I'm like, okay, what kind of dumbbells do you use for chest press normally? And he goes, I usually use around 100-pound dumbbells. And I'm like, okay, how many reps you do? He goes, I do 12. I'm like, okay, this I want you to do. I want you to take the 80-pound dumbbells and I want you to reach failure by 12 reps. And he goes, what do you mean? How do I do that? I'm like, figure it out. I go, take that weight, and for the love of God, if a gun was to your head, how do you make that weight make you fail at 12 reps? So you got to slow it down. You might need to stop the weight. You might need to use full range of motion. Do whatever you can. He messages me the next day and he's like, oh my God, my chest was on fire, burning. I'm like, take that same principle now and apply that to everything. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm so glad you said that. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, but honestly, how many people really think of all that stuff? I mean, I'm amazed. They heard time under the tension. They know this and then, okay. I've watched also, you know how there are different levels of contraction. You can squeeze the muscle, right? But you can squeeze more, right? Yeah. So when you squeeze like a life out of it, biceps, you can triceps, right? You can cramp up calf. I mean, you squeeze so hard that, you know, it comes to the point, okay, it's about to cramp. It's about to tear. But a lot of people, most of the people just use as much contraction as needed to complete that rep. And again, in that rep, they're still not thinking of a primary mover. They're, like you said, they're thinking of the movement. Leverage, I'm going to just lift the weight. I'm going to complete the rep. don't complete 100 pounds, 12 reps that you said, do with 80 pounds and make yourself fail earlier. I mean, seriously, I would, especially for chest, I love those things back in the day. You said some guy, I'm going to tell you, Troy Avs. I remember when Troy Avs came first time to train with me, right? At that time, he was still amateur. He didn't turn pro. He was doing a 405 on the incline bench like nothing, like a cakewalk. But he had a flat chest, right? And I said, hey, stop right here. And I got him 225, the super slow, chest up, stretch completely, holding the stretch position completely, no power, just squeeze it up, right? And like you said, pump like never before and soreness like never before, right? Half of the weight. And, then I watch, most of the other people, but listen, it's still ego. I mean, if you and I train somewhere, and the first time I see you in the gym, right? Like part of me is going to still want to be a man. If Chris did this, I'm going to do that, right? It's stupid, So I really tell everybody, leave that ego out. And then if they're trying for more reps, I make instantly the rep 100 times harder. Slow down, pause. I would go with the stupid stuff like even 2 inches, stop, 2 inches, stop, 2 inches, stop. So you make yourself basically stop on the way up. At that point, you can use the momentum, obviously, and, these kind of things. But to summarize your experience, my experience, right? Instantly feel the muscle and try to connect to start feeling a burn as soon as possible. And then as you start feeling the burn, now make that burn as intense as possible, okay? And try to fail in the least amount of reps, truly, honestly, physically, mentally, right? Emotionally, fail. You've seen that a lot of people fail mentally rather than physically, right? As soon as I've seen guys do the hack squats and stuff like that, right? And do like 4 perfect reps, and then you can see the face, and then all of a sudden, like the legs shake like this. Give me a break. Your legs are not, shaking because of fatigue. You've seen that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So many people, smack them, back in the day, and now do it, and then all of a sudden they can do another 3, 4, 5 reps, So almost as soon as they feel kind of pain, they message to the brain, okay, send the muscle to, you can do it, and now you're failing and you can do it. You can do it, just handle the burn, go through the burn. It's going to be rewarding.
Milos, what a great podcast, man. That was a good discussion. And it was actually very clear. I'm actually excited for people to see this because even a lot of my clients too, you have a much higher pedestal than I do in the realm of bodybuilding. And sometimes get my guys to do something. Sometimes I'm like, listen, man, like you can reference this with other people. I go, this is what you need to do. And when they do it, they see the result. But it's a breath of fresh air to see that also coming from you at your level with your guys. But man, great podcast, Milo. We'll have a guest next time, guys. So thanks again for listening to AMA Chris Milos podcast. Until next time, I'll see you guys then.
Know as a child back in the